The wind reached him first. It came low across the plains, dragging dust like a blade across the earth, bending dead grass until it whispered against itself. The sound carried warning, the kind a man feels in his bones before his mind understands it. The rancher leaned forward in the saddle, squinting into the dying light. His coat pulled tight against a cold that had nothing to do with weather. He hadn't planned to stop here. The land was supposed to be empty. That was what the papers promised, cheap acres forgotten by the world. A place where a man could lay his head down without hearing his name spoken by ghosts. He had followed the boundary posts all afternoon, counting them like prayers, until the sun dipped low and the horse beneath him began to stagger. Then he saw the house. It stood alone, far from any road, its outline cut sharp against the horizon. A single lamp burned inside, yellow and stubborn, refusing the coming night. The barn beside it leaned but did not fall. The fence lines were old yet mended. Someone lived here. Someone had cared enough to keep things standing. The rancher slowed. His horse snorted, steam curling from its nostrils. Both of them were done. 3 nights without rest had hollowed him out, left his thoughts jagged and loose. Sleep came only in cruel fragments, mud-soaked fields. A scream swallowed by gunfire, hands slipping from his grasp, no matter how tightly he held on. He slid down from the saddle. The ground was warm beneath his boots, still holding the sun's memory. His knees buckled for a moment before he caught himself. He tied the horse to a post and rested his forehead against the animal's neck, breathing in dust and sweat and the steady, living warmth that kept him upright. Just one night, he whispered. Though there was no one to hear, the porch boards creaked when he stepped onto them. The sound echoed too loudly in the open space, as if the land itself were listening. He noticed small things then, the careful patch in the railing, the broom marks in the dirt, the faint smell of smoke and boiled roots. Drifting from inside. This was not an abandoned place. He raised his hand to knock. The door opened before his knuckles touched wood. 3 women stood there. They were taller than most men he'd known, and solid, in a way that spoke of work, not softness. Their dresses were plain, sleeves rolled up, hem stained with soil and ash. One had hair the color of dried wheat braided tight down her back. Another wore black, her dark eyes sharp and measuring. The third stood slightly behind them, her gaze calm, almost gentle, but unyielding. They did not look surprised. The lamp behind them flickered, throwing long shadows that stretched across the porch and wrapped around the rancher's boots. The wind picked up again, rattling the doorframe like impatient fingers. For a long moment no one spoke. The rancher removed his hat, more from instinct than courtesy. His hand trembled just a little. "Evening," he said. His voice sounded rough, scraped thin by dust and days of silence. "Didn't mean to trouble anyone? My horse is spent. I'm just looking for a place to rest till morning." The woman in black studied him as if she could see past skin and bone, straight into the weight he carried. Her eyes flicked to the rifle on his shoulder, then back to his face. "You bought this land?" she said at last. "It wasn't a question." He nodded. "That's what the papers say." A faint exchange passed between the women, no words, just a shift of shoulders, a breath taken and released. The one with the wheat-colored braid stepped aside, opening the doorway just enough for lamplight to spill across the porch. "Come in," she said. "Not a welcome." A decision already made. The rancher hesitated. Every instinct he had told him to turn away, to sleep under the open sky as he had so many nights before. But his legs burned. His eyes stung. The thought of lying down anywhere pulled at him harder than fear. He stepped inside. The house was warm, heavy with the scent of stew and smoke. A fire crackled low in the hearth. The furniture was sparse but sturdy, each piece repaired instead of replaced. A table scarred by years of use sat at the center of the room. 3 chairs. One empty space. The door closed behind him. The sound settled like a final note. "Sit," said the braided woman. They did not offer food. They did not ask his name. They watched him in silence as he rubbed his hands together, trying to chase warmth back into his fingers. He felt like a boy again, standing before teachers who already knew his guilt. Asterisk, you look like a man who's been running, the third woman said softly. Her voice was calm, almost kind, but it cut deeper than accusation. Asterisk, I've been writing, he replied. There's a difference. She tilted her head as if considering whether that mattered. Outside, the wind rose into a low howl. The lamp flickered again, shadows dancing across the walls like restless spirits. The rancher's eyes drifted to a small shelf near the fireplace. 3 carved wooden figures stood there, worn smooth by touch. They weren't decorative. They were kept close like talismans. Asterisk, why are you here? The woman in black asked. The question hung in the air, heavier than it should have been. He could have lied. He told the story enough times to make it sound clean, land, solitude, a fresh start. But something about their stillness stripped the words from his mouth before he could shape them. Asterisk, I needed somewhere quiet. He said finally, somewhere the past couldn't follow. Asterisk, a muscle in the woman's jaw tightened. The braided woman's eyes flickered just once toward the door. Asterisk, the past always follows, she said. It just learns to walk softer. Asterisk, the rancher looked down at his hands. They were scarred, stained in ways soap never fixed. He remembered other rooms, other fires, faces lit by fear instead of lamplight. Asterisk, I don't want trouble, he said. I'll be gone at first light. Asterisk, the third woman stepped closer then. She placed a cup on the table in front of him, water, clear and cold. Her fingers brushed his as he reached for it. The contact was brief, but it sent a strange shiver up his arm, like the echo of something long buried. Asterisk, this land isn't empty, she said quietly. It never was. Asterisk, he drank deeply. The water tasted like iron and stone, honest, real. Asterisk, from outside came a distant sound, hooves, far off, then gone. Or maybe it was only the wind shaping fear out of memory. The rancher froze, listening. Old instincts tightened his chest. Asterisk, you expecting company? He asked. The women exchanged another look. Company has a way of finding this place, the woman in black said. Especially men who think they can take what isn't offered. The words settled between them, heavy and deliberate. The rancher set the cup down. His hands were steady now, but his heart wasn't. He understood then that this night was not just about rest. That stepping through that door had carried a cost he didn't yet understand. Asterisk still. When the braided woman nodded toward a narrow bed in the corner, exhaustion won. Asterisk, you can sleep, she said. For now. Asterisk, he lay down without removing his boots, the rifle within arm's reach. The fire popped softly. Shadows crawled along the ceiling. As his eyes closed, he felt their presence around him, not threatening, not comforting, watchful. Asterisk outside. The wind pressed against the walls, circling, waiting. Asterisk, and somewhere in the dark, the storm began to move closer. The night did not let him go easily. Asterisk sleep came in shallow waves, dragging him under only to release him again into half-awareness. The fire's glow shifted against the walls, shrinking and stretching like a living thing. Every creak of the house pulled him closer to waking. Every sigh of wind pressed against old nerves that had never fully healed. Asterisk. He dreamed of running. Asterisk, not away, never away, but through. Through smoke so thick it burned the eyes, through shouts that broke into screams, through a field where the ground gave way beneath each step. Faces passed him without eyes, mouths open as if calling his name, though no sound came. Asterisk, he woke with a sharp breath. Hand already reaching for the rifle? Asterisk, the room was dark. The fire had fallen to embers. For a moment he didn't know where he was, only that he wasn't alone. The sense of being watched lay heavy on his chest, not hostile, but unwavering. Asterisk, a soft sound came from the far side of the room. Fabric shifting. A breath drawn slowly and released. Asterisk, the third woman, sat in a chair near the hearth, her face lit faintly by the dying coals. She hadn't moved when he stirred. Asterisk, you thrash when you sleep. she said quietly. Asterisk, he eased his grip on the rifle, feeling foolish and exposed all at once. Didn't mean to wake anyone. Asterisk, you didn't, she replied. You've been awake all night. Asterisk, he sat up, rubbing a hand over his face. His skin felt tight, stretched thin by years of sun and regret. Why are you watching me? Asterisk, she didn't answer right away. She stood and added a piece of wood to the fire. Flames licked upward, revealing the lines in her facelines etched not by age, but by lost. Asterisk, because men who arrive this tired usually bring something with them, she said. And it's rarely just hunger. Asterisk, the fire crackled. Outside, the wind had shifted, carrying the promise of rain. Or worse, asterisk, he studied her now, noticing the scar that traced her forearm, pale and jagged. A blade, maybe? Or teeth. Frontier scars told their stories without permission. Asterisk, I don't want trouble, he said again, though the words felt thinner each time he used them. No one ever does, she said. Morning came slowly, filtered through clouds the color of old steel. The rancher stepped outside and found the land transformed. The plains rolled endlessly, but now they felt closer, tighter, as if the world had leaned in overnight. Asterisk, he tended to his horse, brushing dust from its flank, checking the worn shoes. The animal nudged him softly, patient and forgiving in a way he didn't deserve. Asterisk, from the corner of his eye. He caught movement. Asterisk, the woman with the wheat-colored braids stood by the fence, sharpening a blade against a stone. The sound was steady, rhythmic, purposeful. Asterisk, you ride like a man who knows how to disappear, she said without looking up. Asterisk, he paused. I ride like a man who's had reason to. Asterisk, she nodded once, as if that answer fit neatly into something she already understood. The land doesn't care why you run, she said. Only how far you can go. Asterisk, the woman in black emerged from the barn, carrying a coil of rope. She stopped short when she saw him, eyes narrowing slightly. Asterisk, tracks, she said. Fresh. Asterisk, his body tightened. How fresh? Asterisk, hours, she replied. Maybe less. The wind carried the distant echo of voices then, faint, unclear, but enough. The rancher felt the old weight settle into his spine. The familiar readiness that came before violence? He hated how easily it returned. Asterisk, who are they? He asked. Asterisk, the woman in black met his gaze. Men who don't ask before taking. Men who believe land and people are the same kind of thing? Asterisk, he glanced toward his horse, toward the open horizon beyond the fence. Escape was possible. It always was. Asterisk, you could ride? The braided woman said, reading the thought on his face. No one here would stop you. Asterisk, the third woman stepped closer, her eyes steady. But they wouldn't stop following either. Asterisk, the rancher exhaled slowly. He thought of other places he'd run from, other doors he'd closed behind him while screams echoed on the other side. He thought of the nights afterward when sleep refused to come. Asterisk, I'm not the man I used to be, he said. Asterisk, the woman in black's expression softened, just a fraction. Neither are we. Asterisk, they worked without much talk after that. The rancher helped reinforce the fence, his hands remembering the labor as if it had never left him. He set his rifle near the door, checked a small cache of ammunition at his belt. The women moved with quiet efficiency, each knowing their place. Their task, trust, formed not in words but in rhythm. By midday the sky darkened. Clouds piled high, heavy and bruised. Thunder rolled across the plains like distant cannon fire. The rancher felt the pressure change, felt the storm building both above and below the earth. Asterisk, a shape appeared on the horizon. Then another, men on horseback, silhouettes sharpening as they drew closer. 5, maybe 6, armed, relaxed in the way men are when they believe they hold all the power. Asterisk, the rancher stood on the porch, shoulders squared, rifle resting easy in his hands. The women flanked him, not behind. Never behind. Asterisk, one of the riders called out, his voice carrying across the open ground. Didn't expect to find company out here. Asterisk, the woman in black stepped forward. Keep riding, she said. Asterisk, laughter followed. Ugly and careless, the rancher felt something twist inside him, not fear, not anger, but resolve. The kind that came when there was no more room to retreat. The storm broke then. Rain slammed into the earth, turning dust to mud in seconds. Thunder cracked overhead, close enough to shake the bones of the house. The horses reared, uneasy. The lead rider's smile faltered. "We're just looking for shelter," he said. "Same as anyone." The braided woman raised her blade, letting the light catch it. "So were others," she said. "They didn't leave." Silence stretched. Rain poured harder. The rancher didn't raise his rifle. Not yet. He waited, watching the men measure the cost of what they wanted against the resistance before them. One of the riders shifted. Reaching for his weapon, time slowed. The rancher saw the movement, felt the old instinct surge. He stepped forward, voice cutting clean through the storm. "Turn back," he said. "You don't want what's waiting here." For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then the thunder spoke again, louder than any gun, and the choice was made. The first shot was swallowed by thunder. The rancher felt it more than he heard it, a sharp crack that split the air, followed by the scream of a horse as it reared and slipped in the mud. Everything moved at once after that. Rain hammered down, blurring the world into streaks of gray and brown. Men shouted. Hooves tore at the earth. The calm of waiting shattered into chaos. He raised his rifle and fired once, not to kill, but to break the advance. The bullet struck the ground just short of the lead rider, sending mud and water spraying up like a warning flare. The man cursed and hauled back on the reins. The women moved with him. Not around him. The braided woman slipped off the porch and vanished into the rain. Low and fast, her shape swallowed by the storm. The woman in black took cover behind the fence post, rope already uncoiling in her hands. The third woman remained beside the rancher, steady as the house itself, feeding him ammunition with quiet precision. Another shot rang out. Wood splintered near the doorframe. The rancher flinched as a shard grazed his cheek, warm blood mixing with rain. He tasted iron and memory. He fired again, this time. A rider cried out and slumped forward, sliding from his saddle into the mud. The others hesitated, their confidence bleeding away with the rain. Fall back. One of them shouted, but fear makes men careless. The braided woman reappeared behind them, a sudden force in the storm. She struck one rider low, blade flashing, not fatal, but final enough to send him sprawling. His horse bolted, riderless and wild. The woman in black cast her rope. It flew true, looping around another man's arm and yanking him sideways. He hit the ground hard, breath knocked from his chest. The fight leaving him in a single, stunned gasp. The rancher stepped off the porch, then, boots sinking into mud that pulled at him like hands. He moved forward with the rifle held tight, eyes locked on the last two men still mounted. Their faces were pale now, the storm reflected in their fear. Go, he said, voice low but unyielding. This ends if you leave? One of them hesitated, pride warring with survival. The other didn't wait. He kicked his horse hard, turning away, vanishing into the rain. The last man lingered a heartbeat too long. A gunshot cracked his or someone else's. The rancher never knew. Pain exploded through his shoulder, white and blinding. He fell to one knee, breath torn from his lungs. The world narrowed to rain and fire and the taste of blood. The third woman was there instantly, pressing him down, her hand firm against the wound. The woman in black fired then, clean and decisive. The last rider screamed and fell, his weapon sinking into the mud beside him. Silence crept back in, broken only by rain and the labored breathing of the wounded. The storm began to ease. As if satisfied, the rancher lay on his back, staring up at a sky slowly lightening. Pain pulsed through him, sharp but distant. He was alive. The knowledge felt strange, almost unfamiliar. They carried him inside. The fire was rebuilt. Stronger now, pushing back the damp and cold? The braided woman cleaned his wound with practiced hands. The third woman held his shoulder steady, her grip grounding him when the pain threatened to pull him under. Asterisk, he did not thank them. Words felt too small. Asterisk, hours passed. The rain faded to a whisper. Outside, the land exhaled. Asterisk, when he woke again, light filled the room. Real morning light, pale and honest. His shoulder throbbed, but the pain was bearable. He could move his fingers. He could breathe without fire in his chest. Asterisk, the women stood near the table, speaking quietly among themselves. When they noticed he was awake, they fell silent. You should leave, the woman in black said finally. He nodded. He had expected that. I will. Asterisk, the braided woman stepped forward. The land will be quieter now, she said. For a while. Asterisk, he sat up slowly, testing his strength. You could have let me ride. Before any of this. Asterisk, yes, she replied. We could have. Asterisk, the third woman met his gaze. But you stayed. Asterisk, he thought of all the times he hadn't, all the moments he'd chosen distance over courage, survival over standing his ground. I didn't come here looking for a fight, he said. No, she agreed. You came looking for rest. Asterisk, he dressed carefully, wincing as he pulled on his coat. When he reached for his hat, the braided woman stopped him, pressing something into his palm. One of the small wooden carvings from the shelf. Worn smooth. Warm from her hand. For the road, she said. He closed his fingers around it, throat tightening. Thank you. Asterisk, outside, the land looked different. The scars of the fight were already softening under the sun. Mud would dry. Grass would rise again. The plains did not hold grudges. Asterisk, he mounted his horse slowly. The women stood by the fence, watching, not waving. Not turning away. Asterisk, as he rode, the rancher felt the weight on his back shift. The past did not disappear. It never would. But it loosened its grip. Just enough for him to breathe. He did not look back. The road stretched ahead, uncertain and open. For the first time in a long while, that uncertainty felt like hope. Asterisk, and if this story reached you, if you've ever stood at the edge of something broken and chosen not to run, remember this: rest is not always found in sleep. Sometimes it's found in standing your ground and choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. Even the hardest land can teach us how to begin again.